Good evening, friends. Meeting again in the session of philosophy, and today we are going to start with new philosophy. And there are few chapters from the second year Stuart Close philosophy. We'll learn those because those are important from the syllabus point of view as well as from the practice point of view. The chapter number 8, chapter number 9, chapter number 11, and chapter number 12. These are the chapters which we have to learn first. And today we're going to start with the chapter number 8, the General Pathology of Homoeopathy. The biggest chapter from the Stuart Close. And in fact, most practical part of the homeopathy is discussed by Stuart Close in this chapter, where he has tried to explain how we think regarding the pathology in homeopathy and how modern science looks towards the pathology. What is the difference and how one can differentiate? These are the things which we have to take into consideration. Stuart Close's philosophy generally everyone overlooks because of the little bit tough language which he has used, but it was the English of his era. But if we read and understand the Stuart Close philosophy, we learn maximum aspects of homeopathy. You can find it out the references, even Dr. H.A. Robert have given many times references from the Stuart Close. And that's why it is too important to understand the Stuart Close philosophy. Stuart Close philosophy is the best explanation of Hahnemannian Organon in his own words. The reason it was overlooked only because of the language, but we're going to make it more and more simplified, and we're going to learn it more and more practically in this session. And that's why my suggestion, don't miss this, specifically the Stuart Close philosophy. You can learn a lot in this. We'll start directly with the chapter number 8, the General Pathology of Homeopathy. Let us see what he wants to explain in this chapter. Chapter number 8, General Pathology of Homeopathy, Theory of Chronic Diseases. Human pathology is the science which treats of diseased or abnormal conditions of living human beings. It is customary to divide the subject into general pathology and special pathology. So when we learn the pathology from the modern point, we used to learn the diseases of the human beings. How those diseases, what are the changes happens at the cellular level or tissue level. And this pathology is divided into two different parts, the general pathology and special pathology. It is customary to divide subject into general pathology and special pathology. Special pathology is divided into medical pathology, dealing with the internal morbid conditions, and surgical pathology, which deals with the external condition. So, the special pathology is again divided into two branches. The internal one, where the concept is related with the medical pathology, where the internal morbid conditions are there, where role of surgery is not directly there. And generally, the other second branch, which is called to be a surgical pathology, which deals with the external conditions, where the pathology which can be removed with the help of surgery. But this concept is the modern concept of this. This is the only superficial understanding about the pathology. General pathology bears the same relation to the special pathology that philosophy bears to the special sciences. So if you understand general pathology, you can understand the special pathology very easily. That's what we used to learn. But whatever we learn in the subject of pathology is the only material pathology we used to learn. We never understand what is behind that pathology, what is the cause behind that pathology. And that's why it is not so easy to understand the homeopathic concept of pathology. It is rather different, and we have to understand that. It is the synthesis of analysis made by the special pathology. It deals with principles, theories, explanation, and classification of facts. So, when you consider the pathology, it has the specific relation with the general pathology. And when you think about the general pathology, it deals with philosophy principles, it deals with theories, it deals with explanation, it deals with the classification of facts, and that's what we used to learn in our curriculum of VIHMS regarding the pathology. But this concept is a very broad understanding of the pathology. So we used to learn the liver cirrhosis. That is, the cirrhosis is nothing but the atrophy over there, the necrosis, the infarction, the inflammation, the atrophy, the hypertrophy, the hyperplasia. These are all conditions we used to learn. But these are most superficial conditions we used to learn. We have to understand more than that. And that's what we have to learn. So this is what he is explaining over there. It deals with principles, theories, explanation, and classification of facts. Now he turns toward the next part, what he says. While the findings and conclusions of modern pathology are accepted by large part of all schools of medicine and serve as a common basis of therapeutic art, there are enough variations and differences, particularly in general pathology, arising from contemplation of the subject from homeopathic point of view to justify the creation of special field or department called homeopathic general pathology, especially as it is concerned with chronic diseases. Contemplation शब्दाचा अर्थ आहे, मीनिंग इज नीट विचार करणं, थिंकिंग प्रॉपरली, मेडिटेशन, थिंक करणं, टू understand the things properly. So when we deal with the medical pathology or the modern pathology, we used to learn the cells, the structure of cell, the changes in the cells, the changes in the tissue, and that is what is a general pathology. Homeopathy never thinks about that. If cell has to change, why it has changed? Why? What is there prior to it, because of which it has been changed? One has to understand that concept. And unless and until you understand that concept, it is not possible to understand the pathology. So real pathology of homeopathy is nothing but the dynamic aspect which is prior to the cellular pathology, which happens to be there prior to it in the form of chronic diseases. If you understand the chronic diseases, the SORA, the psychosis, the syphilis, then you will understand why these changes happens to be there. Why inflammation happens, why hypertrophy happens, why degeneration happens. The prior things before that are explained in the homeopathy in the form of miasms, in the form of a causes of chronic diseases, and which is called to be a true pathology of homeopathy. If you understand that, you can find it out the results of that pathology in the form of such a cellular pathology. They are the end products, they are not the prior things. So if any tumor has to develop, there is a prior condition which happens for 1 year, 2 years behind that. Tumor is the end result. If you are able to understand that prior thing, you can prevent the development of a tumor with the help of proper homeopathic remedy. Because the general pathology of homeopathy is hidden in these chronic miasms, chronic diseases. And if you are able to catch them, find it out a right remedy, when the disease is more at the functional level, rather it has not changed to the pathology, till that period, if you treat that, there is no further progress of the disease happens, and this is cured at the same level without the further development of the visible pathology. And that's why it is necessary to understand the diseases in such a state where they are more functional than a tissue changes. And for that purpose, you have to understand the concept of pathology from homeopathic point of view. Homeopathic point of view, looking towards the pathology is rather absolutely different than the modern pathology. And in this chapter, Stuart Close tried to explain this concept in a natural manner, in a simple manner. So we're going to learn what exactly he wants to say. Homeopathy differs with regular medicine in its interpretation and application of several fundamental principles of the science. So what he said? Homeopathy differs with regular medicine in its interpretation and application of several fundamental principles of the science. It is these differences of interpretation and the practice growing out of them which give homeopathy its individuality and continue its existence as a distinct school of medicine. When we learn the homeopathy, we learn the fundamental principles, the 7 cardinal principles of homeopathy. We learn the law of similars, we learn the law of simplex, we learn the law of minimum dose, the doctrine of vital force, the doctrine of drug proving, the doctrine of drug dynamization, and doctrine of chronic diseases. This is the difference between the allopathy and homeopathy. One science, thoroughly a science, based upon 7 fundamental cardinal principles, and another, the modern science, allopathy, doesn't have any such type of principle, fundamental principle. Totally based upon speculations, totally based upon theories, totally based upon opinions. And here the basic difference is that basic differences between two different medical fields is this. And if you are able to understand this concept, then you will understand which is scientific. What he says, it is these differences of interpretation and practice growing out of them which give homeopathy its individuality and continue as existence as a distinct school of medicine. And this is the thing which gives homeopathy its individuality, where the 7 cardinal principles are present, which are based upon natural laws, which are based upon the nature's laws. And that's why this is the pathology which we have to learn in homeopathy, and we have to understand the concept of pathology from homeopathic point of view. Then he further adds, these differences are primarily philosophical. The differences between allopathy and homeopathy, they are primarily philosophical. They have to do mainly with the interpretation or explanation of facts upon which all are agreed. See, what is it? They have to do mainly with the interpretation or explanation of facts upon which all are agreed and which all accept. These differing interpretations arise from differing viewpoints. So there are different ways of looking towards the pathology. When we look towards the tonsillitis, a case of tonsillitis, we used to look toward the tonsil. If we used to look with modern angle, we used to see tonsils, yes, they are enlarged, that's all. There is inflammation, there is a hypertrophy, there is a quinsy. So there are differences in presentation. From allopathic point of view, they consider, yes, this is tonsillitis. It might be because of some infection. Give the antibiotics, give the anti-inflammatory, and that's all. Why that tonsil has swollen? Why it has shown only acute inflammation? Why it has shown hypertrophy? Why it has developed quinsy? The 3 types of disorders, the first is psoriatic, the second is psychotic, third is syphilitic. If you are able to catch that, you can treat the prior conditions which are there before that tonsillitis. If you are able to treat that with the help of a proper antipsoric or antipsychotic or antisyphilitic remedy, respectively, then that disease will be vanished forever. But if you treat it with local or internal treatment of antibiotics, anti-inflammatory, it will work only for time being. It removes that infection, but patient's immunity will come down. Again, some infection comes. Again, he suffers. Again, the same presentation will be there, because you have not treated the pathology which is hidden in the chronic miasms which is prior to it. And homeopathy looks towards the same disease with a different angle. Homeopathy treats it with a different way. And these differences are necessary to understand. Modern science in general and medical science in particular regards the facts of the universe from the materialistic standpoint. So modern science, medical science, looks towards every pathology with material view. So whatever is visible to the naked eye is truth. Whatever is not visible is not the truth. This is the concept. And this concept is rather wrong. Here you get only half truth. You cannot understand what is prior to it. You cannot understand the dynamics behind it. And unless and until you understand these dynamics behind it, you cannot cure. Modern science in general and medical science in particular regard the facts of the universe from the materialistic standpoint. It endeavors म्हणजे प्रयत्न करणे. It endeavors to reduce all things to the term of matter and motion. No valid objection could be raised to these if its definitions of these terms were broad enough to include all the facts. But failing in this and deliberately closing its eyes and refusing to see certain great fundamental facts which are not covered by its definitions and of which therefore no explanation can be made, medical science formulates systems and methods of practice which are not only inefficient but often positively harmful. So the concept is rather materialistic in modern science. They look toward the things with material point of view. If there is any specific change happens over there in the form of some material change. For example, there is a tumor, formation of tumor in the patient. And what they explain, your patient is deceased because there is a tumor. If you put question why there is a tumor, they don't have answer to it. Because what is prior to the tumor, they don't know. What has aroused the tendency to form the tumor over there is not there. If same patient goes to the homeopath, he knows what is the reason in the formation of tumor in the form of chronic miasms. He studies that whole case. He understands that patient. He understands the past history, understand the family history, understand the miasm at the time of birth, he understands the evolution of miasm till today, and then he can explain, yes, this is the reason because of which tumor is the result. We can treat that with the help of proper anti-miasmatic remedy. But if that tumor is there, from modern point of view, they remove the tumor. They remove the tumor, patient feels palliated till the tumor is removed, and again there is a formation of tumor somewhere else. Again there is a metastasis to somewhere else, and that is because they have not treated the cause behind that, and they don't know what cause is. Because that cause is hidden, that cause is dynamic, that cause is not visible to naked eye. That cause they cannot locate because they looks only to the material and not looks towards the dynamics of the human being. And that's why their treatment is always inefficient. Inefficient. They said mutations and absence of growth factor leads to overgrowth about the cancers. What mutation? Why it has happened? Why problem has happened? What is the reason why the person has developed such and such thing? No answer is there. Very superficial answers are there. If simple question is that if Duchenne muscular dystrophy is the disorder that says there is hypertrophy of the legs or muscles, specifically broad muscles, but gradually internally the muscle becomes weak and all those things, and it is X-linked disorder, etc. But they says this is the genetical disorder. It comes from families. It comes from the mother. Mother is carrier, and only the males are the males gets affected only with this disorder. I have 116 cases of Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and when I look towards the past history, family history of the patient, there was nearly about 75 or 80 cases are there where there is no history of the Duchenne muscular dystrophy was there in the past, in the families. Then why there is a problem? If it is hereditary X-linked disorder, why it was not there? Modern science is not having answer to explain that. They says it is there. We cannot explain. We can explain with the help of homeopathy because the miasm is carried from the past generation. It is not the disease is carried, it is the miasm is carried. Disease is one part of the miasm. Miasm is a very big entity. If we are able to understand this concept, then we'll understand the concept of pathology from homeopathic point of view. Our point of looking towards those disorders is this dynamic aspect of it, and which we have to understand. And this is the basic difference between the modern science and homeopathy. In modern science, they cannot come to the conclusion of cause of the disease, cause of that pathology. And that's why the automatically whatever treatment is there only palliative and many times harmful. If you remove the cancer from the, if there is a CA breast, if you remove it by doing mastectomy, within span of 6 months to 1 year, patient develops metastasis somewhere else in the chest, in the brain, somewhere else. It goes, it transmits. How it happened? Because you have not treated the cause of the disease, you have treated the end product. Cause is hidden in the miasm. If you would have treated that cause hidden in the miasm with the help of proper homeopathic remedy, you would have cured the disease properly. Then if you remove that main products, there will be no recurrence. But homeopathy only understand that. Modern science never understands the causes, the dynamic causes. And that is the difference between homeopathic point of view looking towards the pathology and allopathic point of view looking towards the pathology. We'll finish one more paragraph. We have to learn every paragraph. We have to learn every, sometimes it will happen, we have learned only one paragraph during the whole lecture. Because Stuart Close book is the depth of, it is in depth, and we have to understand many concepts while learning the Stuart Close book. What he says, homeopathic medical science views the facts of the universe in general and medical facts in particular from the vitalistic, substantialistic standpoint. That is, from the standpoint of substantialistic, substantial philosophy, which regards all things and forces, including life and mind, as substantial entities having a real objective existence. In homeopathic philosophy, life and mind are the fundamental verities of the universe. See what he is explaining. He is explaining that homeopathic medical science not only looking toward the material side of the human being, not only towards the body or constitution, not only look toward the pathology in the form of material at cellular or structural level, but it takes into consideration the dynamic aspects of the human life. It takes into consideration the mind. It takes into consideration the life force. And then the homeopathy is far beyond it. It has both views, the dynamic as well as materialistic. So homeopathy is the system of medicine which is based upon substantialistic school of philosophy. There are three schools of philosophy. The first one is materialistic. That means those who used to consider everything materially, that is the materialistic school of philosophy. Second is idealistic. Those who used to look towards everything as a immaterial, spiritual, never taking into consideration the material aspect, they are idealistic. Both of them are the half truth. Substantialistic school of philosophy is the thing which considers the material as well as the dynamic aspect and takes into consideration both the things, making it substantial. So material having its dynamic aspect behind. Homeopathy considers both. Homeopathy considers the materialistic view at the same time the dynamic view, dynamic aspect. And that's why it's quite easy to understand the pathology behind the pathology. The material pathology, the dynamic pathology behind the material pathology. Dynamic pathology in the form of miasms behind the material pathology in the form of end products. And if you are able to understand that, then it is quite easy to understand exactly how to treat such pathological disorder. And that's why we have to learn Stuart Close, this chapter, biggest chapter from Stuart Close. It will take nearly about 1 month or more than that for us to learn this thing. There is one question, difference between materialistic and substantialistic. Materialistic school of philosophy means those who used to think only the material aspects of the human being is materialistic school of philosophy. Second is idealistic school of philosophy, those who used to look towards the only dynamic aspects of human being, never taking into consideration the material physical aspect of the human being, is idealistic. And third, so that is idealistic means those who used to consider, yes, ye जीवन खाली maya hai, nothing more than that. That is the idealistic. And third one, the substantialistic, consists both material plus idealistic is equal to substantialistic. Homeopathy considers both material as well as ideal dynamic, and that's why homeopathy is the substantialistic school of philosophy. Our homeopathic school is nothing but the substantialistic school of philosophy, which considers the material aspect of the human being at the same time dynamic aspect of human being. So we'll stop over here. Tomorrow we'll continue with the next paragraph and we'll learn Stuart Close philosophy in this manner. So this,
Sir, one question.
yes, Utpal. Good evening.
Sir, today one session. Actually, उसका क्या हुआ था सर? He was in agony regarding his dispute,
थोड़ा जोर
land
से
dispute.
बोलो, थोड़ा जोर से बोलो. I am not.
Sir, patient was suffering from agony, mental agony. He has a land dispute with his neighbor. One mind, everything will be okay for me. So, what should be the mind to click?
I'm not getting you properly. My suggestion to you is just write, type it down. That will be better for
Yes.
me to read and explain. You just type it. What is your question? Then it becomes rather simple for me to answer.
More time to write. If you have time, I'll write it later on.
You write it and send it to me. I will explain in tomorrow's session.
Okay, okay, okay.
Okay. Today evening we'll have a session on Materia Medica. I don't know what remedy I will going to talk about, but definitely at 8 o'clock we'll meet with the Materia Medica section. So do be there and we'll have a chat regarding the new remedy. Thank you. Thanks everyone for attending the session.